my boss, but after hours, she became something more. The conference room felt suffocating as I watched her lean over the presentation table, her perfectly manicured fingers pointing at yet another error in my proposal. Victoria Chen was known throughout the firm as the Ice Queen, the woman who could freeze your career with a single glance, and right now that glance was fixed directly on me. My heart hammered against my ribs, but not entirely from fear. For the past 6 months, I had been harboring a secret that felt like it was burning a hole through my chest every single day. I was hopelessly, desperately in love with my boss, and the cruel irony was that she barely seemed to notice. I existed beyond my productivity reports and quarterly reviews. What I didn't know that morning was that everything was about to change, and the walls we had both built so carefully around ourselves were about to come crashing down in the most unexpected way possible. Working at Chen and Associates had been my dream job when I first started 3 years ago. Fresh out of business school, eager and ambitious, I thought I could conquer the world. Victoria had hired me herself, and I remembered being struck by her commanding presence during that first interview. She was tall with sharp features, softened only slightly by the cascade of dark hair that fell past her shoulders. Her eyes were the color of dark chocolate, intense and penetrating, the kind of eyes that seemed to see right through any pretense. She wore power suits like armor, and her reputation preceded her. She was brilliant, ruthless in business, and utterly untouchable. Everyone respected her. Many feared her, and I foolishly had fallen completely and irrevocably in love with her. It hadn't happened all at once. Love rarely does. It started with small moments. The way she would absently tuck her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating. The rare smile that would break through her professional facade when someone presented an idea she genuinely liked. The time she stayed until midnight helping me fix a pitch that could have cost us a major client. Her usual coldness replaced with patient guidance and unexpected warmth. Each moment was a drop of water, wearing away at the stone walls around my heart until there was nothing left but this aching, impossible longing. I told myself it was just admiration, just respect for a mentor. But then I would catch myself staring at her lips during meetings, wondering what they would feel like, and I knew I was lying to myself. The torture of it was unbearable. Every day I had to maintain perfect professionalism, while my heart felt like it was being torn apart. I watched her date men occasionally, sophisticated executives who picked her up in expensive cars, and I would go home and cry into my pillow like a teenager. I knew there was no future in these feelings. Victoria had never given any indication that she was interested in women, and even if she was, workplace romances were strictly forbidden. She had fired people for less. I was trapped in a beautiful, terrible purgatory close enough to her every day to feel the warmth of her presence, but never able to reach across that unbridgeable distance. The turning point came on a rainy Thursday evening in October. Most of the office had cleared out by 7, but I was still at my desk, struggling with a client proposal that was due the next morning. I was exhausted, frustrated, and on the verge of tears when I heard footsteps approaching. Victoria appeared in my cubicle doorway, and for once she wasn't wearing her armor. She had changed out of her business suit into jeans and a soft sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger, softer, and heartbreakingly beautiful. She asked if I was okay, and something in her voice, some gentleness I had never heard before, broke something inside me. Before I could stop myself, the tears started falling. What happened next changed everything. Instead of backing away or offering some awkward corporate encouragement, Victoria stepped into my space and wrapped her arms around me. I froze, overwhelmed by the sudden intimacy, by the warmth of her body against mine, by the subtle scent of her perfume. She held me while I cried, not saying anything, just offering silent comfort. When I finally pulled back, embarrassed and apologizing, she cupped my face in her hands and looked at me with an intensity that stopped my breath. She told me she knew. She had known for months. And then, with a vulnerability that shattered every assumption I had ever made about her, she confessed that she had been fighting the same feelings, terrified of what they meant, terrified of crossing a line that could never be uncrossed. The kiss, when it finally happened, was nothing like I had imagined in my countless daydreams. It was tentative at first, questioning, both of us trembling with the enormity of what we were doing. Her lips were soft and warm, and when she pulled me closer, deepening the kiss, I felt like I was falling and flying at the same time. All the months of longing, all the nights of crying myself to sleep, all the carefully maintained professional distance collapsed into that single moment. When we finally pulled apart, both breathless, she was crying too. She told me she had spent years building walls around herself, convincing herself she had to be perfect, untouchable, that showing weakness or desire was a liability. But being with me, working beside me day after day, had worn down those walls until she couldn't pretend anymore. We talked for hours that night, sitting on the floor of my cubicle like conspirators, sharing secrets and fears and dreams. She told me about the struggles she had faced as a woman in a male-dominated industry, how she had learned to be harder than the men around her just to be taken seriously. She talked about past relationships that had failed because she could never let anyone truly see her, could never trust anyone enough to show vulnerability. She had dated men because it was expected, because it was easier, but she had always felt like something was missing, like she was playing a role instead of living her life. Meeting me had awakened something she had tried to bury for years, and the realization had terrified her. I shared my own story, the fear and confusion I had felt when I first realized I was attracted to women, the difficulty of coming out to a family that didn't understand, the loneliness of hiding such a fundamental part of myself in professional settings. I told her about the torture of the past 6 months, loving her from a distance, convinced that my feelings were hopeless and pathetic. We laughed and cried together, and somewhere in those late-night hours, we stopped being boss and employee and became simply two women who had found something rare and precious in each other. Of course, reality came crashing back in the days that followed. We both knew that what we were doing was dangerous. Company policy explicitly forbade relationships between supervisors and subordinates, and Victoria's position made her especially vulnerable to accusations of favoritism or abuse of power. We tried to stay apart, tried to convince ourselves that one moment of weakness didn't have to define us, but it was impossible. We had opened a door that couldn't be closed, and every moment of forced distance felt like dying slowly. We found ourselves staying late together, stealing moments in empty conference rooms, exchanging glances across crowded meetings that felt more intimate than touch. The secrecy was its own special torture. We couldn't be seen together outside of work, couldn't touch or look at each other the way we wanted to during office hours. I watched her maintain her Ice Queen persona during the day while knowing the warm, vulnerable woman who emerged after hours. She would text me late at night, messages full of longing and frustration, counting down the hours until we could be alone together again. We became experts at hiding in plain sight, at communicating through the smallest gestures. A certain inflection in her voice during a meeting meant she was thinking about me. A specific way I organized papers on her desk was my way of saying I loved her. The breaking point came 4 months into our secret relationship. Victoria had been offered a position at a rival firm, a massive promotion that would make her one of the youngest executives in the industry. It was everything she had worked for, the culmination of years of sacrifice and dedication, but taking it would mean leaving me behind, and the thought was unbearable for both of us. We spent a weekend locked in her apartment, trying to figure out what to do, both of us in tears as we faced the impossible choice between love and ambition. I told her she had to take it, that I wouldn't let her sacrifice her dreams for me, that we could try long distance or find some way to make it work. But she surprised me by saying no. She said she had spent her entire life chasing success, building empires of achievement while ignoring what really mattered, and she wasn't going to make that mistake again. Instead, Victoria did something that shocked everyone in the firm. She resigned. She walked into the senior partner's office and submitted her resignation, citing personal reasons and refusing to elaborate despite their attempts to convince her to stay. The office buzzed with speculation and gossip. Some said she had been poached by an even bigger firm. Others whispered about scandal or burnout. No one suspected the truth. She spent her last 2 weeks training her replacement, maintaining her professional facade even as she was planning our future together. On her final day, she gathered the team for a farewell speech, and when her eyes met mine across the room, I saw everything we hadn't been able to say reflected back at me. 2 weeks after Victoria left, I submitted my own resignation. I had been offered a position at a smaller firm, and with Victoria no longer my boss, we were finally free to be together openly. The day I walked out of Chen Associates for the last time felt like emerging from a prison I hadn't fully realized I was in. Victoria was waiting for me outside, not hiding in shadows or meeting me blocks away, but standing right there in front of the building where anyone could see. When I reached her, she took my hand in full view of anyone who might be watching from the office, windows above, and kissed me like we had all the time in the world. Building a life together wasn't easy. We both had to navigate the complicated reactions of friends and family, deal with the whispers and speculation that followed us in professional circles. Victoria's parents struggled to accept that their successful daughter was gay, that she had thrown away a prestigious position for a relationship they didn't understand. My mother worried that I had ruined my career for an office romance that might not last. There were moments of doubt, times when the weight of what we had both sacrificed felt crushing. But through it all, we had each other, and that made everything else bearable. Victoria started her own consulting firm, pouring all her ambition and drive into building something that was truly hers. I joined her 6 months later, and together we created a company built on different values than the cutthroat world we had left behind. We proved that success didn't require sacrificing humanity, that you could be brilliant and compassionate, ambitious and vulnerable. Our relationship, once a secret shame we had to hide, became the foundation of everything we built together. Clients were drawn to the authentic partnership we represented, the way we challenged and supported each other in equal measure. If this story has touched your heart, if you've ever felt the terror and joy of falling in love against all odds, I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is remind each other that love in all its forms is worth fighting for, worth the risk, worth the sacrifice. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who might be struggling with their own impossible feelings, who need to know they're not alone. 3 years have passed since that rainy Thursday evening that changed everything. Victoria and I are still together, still building our life and our business side by side. We got married last spring in a small ceremony, surrounded by the friends and family who had learned to accept and celebrate our love. Sometimes I look at her across our shared office, watching her concentrate on a proposal with that same intense focus that first captivated me, and I'm overwhelmed by gratitude that we both had the courage to reach across that impossible distance. She's no longer my boss, but she's still someone who challenges me, inspires me, and makes me want to be better every single day. The walls we build around ourselves, the armor we wear to protect our hearts, often keep out the very things that could save us. Love requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires courage. Victoria taught me that strength isn't about never showing weakness, but about being brave enough to let someone see you completely, flaws and fears and all. She transformed from the ice queen everyone feared into the warm, loving partner I wake up beside every morning, and in the process, she helped me become braver too. We both had to learn that some risks are worth taking, that some rules are worth breaking, that love doesn't always arrive in the package we expect, but that doesn't make it any less real or valuable. Before we reach the end, I want to ask something special of you. Please take a moment to leave a comment below telling us what love means to you, or share a time when you had to be brave for love. Your stories matter, and this community we're building together is about supporting each other through all the beautiful, complicated messiness of being human. Looking back now, I understand that the torture of those 6 months loving Victoria from a distance wasn't wasted time. It taught me patience and resilience. It showed me that some things are worth waiting for, worth fighting for, worth risking everything for. The moment she first kissed me, tentative and terrified and completely transformative, didn't just change my life. It changed who I was as a person. She taught me that the most professional exterior can hide the most tender heart, that the people who seem most untouchable are often the ones most desperately in need of connection. Our love story didn't follow any conventional path, and it cost us both in ways we couldn't have imagined at the start. But standing here now, building a life that honors both our ambitions and our love, I wouldn't change a single moment of the journey that brought us here together.